Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Yeah, don't adjust your screen, I'm actually playing tanks again. And I have a crazy good tank, the Turm 3, for your pleasure today. In our first impressions, even though the tank is quite old. I'm also sorry for the lack of in-game sound, but apparently my recording software decided to not record the sound today for reasons. But this should give you a good idea what's going on. 5-second reload, also as this T-54 just found out, even though he took my gunner, I had still a commander available that could override the controls, and also the fine feature of a coaxial 30mm. And this is how I like my helicopters. Dead. Not just dead, but dead, because only a dead helicopter is a good helicopter, as you'll find out in just a moment when I give it to you in game in writing. So yeah, the actual name in-game, if you hover with the mouse over the symbol, is the Erprobungsträger mit 3-Achs stabilisierten Turm. And it is ranked 5, battle rating 8.0, and it's a German premium medium tank. And I think it is quite obvious that this is an experimental tank, since it lacks any sort of thermal imaging or night vision device, even though at this battle rating it should become more and more standard. You also have no smoke, you have no smoke grenades, no smoke shells, no engine exhaust system, or engine exhaust smoke system, and that really is a bit of a problem in some scenarios, but you really make up for it with this fantastic firepower. Also, this is the first time that I enjoyed the artificially buffed APDS. Yes, it's been that long ago that I played tanks at this battle rating. The DM13 APDS has been buffed from roughly 303mm to 350. APDS has been buffed across the board for all nations, as far as I can tell, and this makes the shell even more deadly. It had been great before, but now it's fantastic, and it has some great post-penetration shrapnel damage effect. I love it. Combine this with a 5-second autoloader, and all the ammunition is in the autoloader, all 47 rounds. That means that this is also your ammo rack to be hit with. And the 30mm HSS-831L cannon with 300 rounds of total ammunition divided into 5 magazines, A60 rounds, with a hefty reload is fantastic. It has a mixed belt of HEIT and also SAPI, and that has up to 53mm of penetration and is a great combination of shells versus helicopters, in theory also planes and drones, but you really have to work around the fact that you have only 60 rounds in the belt or the magazine, and you can reload them in a cap, which is fantastic. So then we also have, for the 105mm, as I said, the DM13, then also the DM512 hash round and the DM12 heat round with the usual values of 127mm of penetration for the hash and 400mm at all distances for the heat round. And as you can see, I mostly used a lot of ammunition, and my primary shell and the shell that I fired like in 95% of the cases was in fact the APDS, and that's just how I really enjoyed playing this tank. It doesn't have a laser rangefinder, but you know, at this battle rating that's not really that much of a problem, and it already begs the question if this tank is overpowered, because it's really strong. But it has still not the world's greatest penetration. It's really good, but it's not really outstanding. Then there are many tanks with autoloaders, there are many tanks with auto cannons, or you know, armored vehicles, whatever you want to call them. And the tank is missing all the tools of a light tank, so no drone, no scouting for you, and also the mobility lacks a little bit. Again, it's not bad, it's around 20 horsepower per ton ratio, which is great, but some documents that I saw, also should have worked with a 1000 horsepower engine instead of the 856 horsepower engine, and also with a little bit of a higher top speed of 70 instead of 65 kilometers per hour. But the reverse speed is still the old reliable 25 kilometers per hour, which lets you work ridge lines. And that brings us back to the turret, because as I said, it's not really modeled correctly. There should be a turret in a turret, and it's basically a half sphere. That is modeled with the outer armor being 20mm. If you go into the armor view and you hover your mouse over the turret front, then it is instead like 20mm, a bit like the Kugelblitz. And there is also the 30mm of the turret front of the actual inner turret that should be there. The hull is also weaker protected as on the Leopard 1, which has 70mm of armor. This one has 30mm of armor, so even autocannons can be really dangerous. And the side of the hull is also only 20mm, and the roof is only 10mm. So watch out for anything that flies, if that is not obvious to begin with. But it keeps its speed of 42.5 tons. Then there is also a inner wall of armor of 5mm, dividing the crew compartment from the ammo rack. And to be honest, that the ammo rack is so prominent, you cannot count on, sticking out your turret, because if then you get hit on the left hand side of the turret, if you look at it, then your ammo detonates, and it's really difficult to miss the ammo. If you look at the tank, you see it yourself. And because this is an autoloader, we have not 4 but 3 crew members: the driver, and then in the turret of the right hand side of the gun, again, if you look at it, the gunner and the commander exactly behind each other. And if you aim at the right hand side of the turret, you kill the crew. Left hand side, you kill the ammo. So a hit to the turret is fatal either way, and that is then a bit tricky to argue that the almost complete lack of armor makes any sense. Now, I love to play this tank because it gives you the initiative, it gives you control. You can decide if you can engage one or multiple enemies. Something that has no armor and trusts in no armor being best armor then gets taught by the 30mm why that is not the case. You also can bridge the short reload gap of 5 seconds from the autoloader with it to track enemies, to take their gun barrels, and to just go through their side of the hull, and or even straight through the front if it is a light tank. If it is something equally poorly protected, the 30mm is really crazy good. But to have the combination of an L7 and a 30mm, that's the dirty part. That the tank has a 2-plane stabilization instead of a actual 3-plane stabilization, where the level of the turret horizontally would always be the same if you are even on a slope like you saw at the start of the match. That's not such a big issue, it's just that it's inaccurate. That's what it is. And if I would dare to criticize one thing about the tank, it would be the turret rotation speed of 24 degrees per second. It's not bad by any means of the stretch of the imagination, but it feels a little bit always like you're damaged, or your crew is not up to the task, or your gunner's injured, because I'm so used to 30 or 40 degrees per second. But that's just me. So there's nothing wrong with the tank. It's crazy good, it's fantastic, it's fun. I would recommend it, if not there being already rank 7 tanks, and this is only a rank 5 tank, so you would have an RP penalty. And I think that rank 8 tanks are somewhat imminent in the next couple of patches or half a year. That's just my wild guess. So here I finally decided to not be a chicken and cross the road, and then go in, and now we can see the final stand of this tank. this was my most successful battle so far, so I decided to just go around, but then I come across this heavy tank, and those American tanks with APDS, they are somewhat notorious to kill in some cases. And then I think to myself, holy hell, what is that? Detonate the M103. I wanted to also go for the hull again of this T-29, but then the spalling was not good enough. I cannot take the gun of this tank, the T-55AM, if I'm not mistaken, and then go through the lower glacis and we kill him. But then there is another enemy while I was extinguishing the first fire, gets set on fire again, while we have the cooldown of the fire extinguisher, which never gets old to mention, and again we cannot take the gun barrel of this. I think it's a Type 16. And yeah, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.